Hello, I'm Jervis Lewis, and in this video I'm going to show you how to format strings when you print them out on your Commodore 64. Now, I've had this little lotto generation program here that I've been working on in the last couple of videos, and one of the things that I've mentioned there was that on the C128 and on the Plus 4 we can use a function called print using, and sadly that's not available on the Commodore 64, but I think it's a nice way of formatting strings. So I brought this listing back. I've got the Plus 4 running on VIC here. He doesn't get enough screen time, so I thought, I'd give the Plus 4 a bit of well-deserved screen time. Lovely machine, sadly very underrated. One of those things. Lovely piece of BASIC on there, BASIC 3.5. And let's see if the program runs on the Plus 4, just like I had it before. Look at that. Yes, it does. And what we can see here is that when the numbers are one digit, there's a little gap in here. When there are two digits at the front, then that gap is not there. So the first number is always left justified rather than right justified, and that has an impact on the rest of the numbers. So we get this kink here. They're not printed in proper columns. And print using is something that we can use on the Plus 4 and on the 128 in order to make that happen. And once I've shown you how to do that, I can show you how to do that on the C64 as well. It's a little bit more work, but we will get there. So the routine that prints out our numbers here is in line 120, and it just prints out the number with a semicolon at the end. But if I were to say, instead of print my number, I can go and say, it's 120, wasn't it? Yeah. Print using. I can tell the computer in double quotes what format he should be using the hash signs. So if I should say print 2 or 3 spaces per number, then that's fine. And then just go for the semicolon at the end. Semicolon at the end, and then the actual number that you want to print out. So in my case, that was NI. Keyboard driver is not what it used to be. And I believe that is it. Let's try it out. Not quite what I had expected. Let's try this again. I believe what we should be doing is put another semicolon here at the end. And that prints all our numbers in a neatly spaced fashion, no matter how many digits the numbers have. You can even space them out further. By that, all we need to do is add more hashes to that space here. So maybe we'll use 5 hash symbols or pound symbols, and then they're spaced out with 5 digits in between. So that's print using. Works on the Plus 4 and it works on the C128, but it doesn't work on the C64. So let's stop this here and go back to our C64, in which I still have the same program running, and that's the unamended version now, of course, that does not have the spacing applied here. So in order for that to happen, let's write another little subroutine here. For example, in line 300. Call it space the numbers. In order for that to work, we need to determine the length of each number that's being printed out. And the way to do that is to just call the len function. Let me show you what I mean. If I had a number, say I'll call it a equals 3, and I can go and print out the length of that by using the len function, and it'll tell me this. And that's because the length of a number can only be determined if it's a string. So first what we need to do is we need to put that number into a string. So in order to do that, I can use the str string function. So I could say a string equals str string of either a number directly or of a variable. Let's do that. A string equals str string 3. and then I can print out a string, but a string is now not a number, a string is now a string. And from a string I can infer the length, so I can say print len a string, and that'll tell me it's 2 digits long. Now wait a minute, you say I can only see 1 digit, but that's probably because when this is converted to a string, the first part is actually a space and the second part is the number. So that'll help us if a string was in fact a 2-digit number, say 33, and I print that out, then that's 33. And if I print the length of a string now, it'll give me a 3, because 33 is now 3 digits long according to the Commodore system. One of those things. To put that into our little subroutine, in line 310, I'm just going to say if the length of our number, well actually let's do this in a few steps. So the number that I want to print out is ni, and so I'm going to turn that into a string first. So let's stick with a string. So a string equals str string of ni. Okay, in line 320 I can then ask if the length of a string is 2, because that's the only thing that we're going to encounter, 2 or 3 string numbers or 2 or 3 digit numbers. If it is in fact 2, then I'd like a space added to the beginning of it. Space plus str string ni. And in 399 we can just return, and that's all we need to do in our little subroutine there. Now it's about calling that and printing that. So if we do that, that is up here. Currently we're printing the number ni right away, but we don't need to do that. We're just gonna go and call our subroutine. So go sub 300, and then we'll just print a string. All the variables on the Commodores are always global, so there's no return value of functions. We're just going to have to set it globally in a global space, and then we can just access them just as much. So if we run the program now, we have nicely spaced out numbers. And just like before, you can add as many or as little spaces as you want in there, just like I've shown you on the print using example. And that's how you can space out or format strings of an array on the Commodore 64. I hope you found that entertaining and it enriched your life. If you like this video, of course, share it with friends, family, and total strangers. Give it a thumbs up. And if you really liked it, then please subscribe to my channel. There'll be more Commodore videos, there'll be more on iOS development. There's also going to be more 3D stuff, of course, coming up in the near future. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good evening and take care. I'll see you next time.